He's still attacking MAGA as working very hard to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk. We want to we're in mourning. We're not capitalizing on the death of Charlie. We're in mourning. You leftist losers are out there trying to blame us for his death, trying to disparage his legacy, and we're trying to correct you, and we're trying to correct the record. And for once, we're fighting back. That's what you're talking about. You're just not used to it. We get to Wednesday.
Donald Trump treated the presidency like a reality show that stubbornly refused to get canceled. Mostly because no one in the control booth had the nerve to admit the ratings were imaginary. Stephen Colbert watched the chaos unfold, picked up his mic, and showed up not with popcorn, but with a full-blown Caroline Leavitt, proudly branding herself as the ambassador of youthful mayhem, rushed in to defend the indefensible.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see.
But Colbert handled her talking points the way you handle expired coupons overly. Dramatic, vaguely confusing, and ultimately useless. By the end, it wasn't a late-night bit. It was a comedic-controlled detonation broadcast live. Trump's version of leadership.
You know, a lot of people watched our show last night. I got so many texts from so many people. It made me realize how many of my friends are never watching the show at any other time. Tomorrow I'll hear from no one. I did hear from one very special friend. Moments after we taped our show last night, the Mad Red Hatter wrote, "I can't believe ABC Fake News gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back." You can't believe they gave me my job back. I can't believe we gave you your job back.
Looks like a man juggling live explosives while insisting he's got perfect control. The louder he claims everything is fine, the more the country instinctively ducks for cover. Colbert didn't need to exaggerate. He just held up a mirror to the madness. This is a presidency where confusion gets rebranded as genius. And trust me, I've got this.
ABC are now in meltdown because, according to The Hollywood Reporter, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, the phone lines were ringing off the hooks. They were upset. They, too, are feeling the vibe shift that we felt since Trump's election, and they've had it with this nonstop pinko commie leftist programming up and down their airwaves. From The View in the morning straight through to Kimmel in the evening, and don't even get me started on David Muir. Then you had Brendan Carr go on Benny Johnson's podcast and say, you know, enough is...
Has started to feel less like reassurance and more like a national alert. Caroline Leavitt's attempt to defend Trump was like trying to patch a sinking ship with a spoon. She marched into interviews, acting as though swagger could substitute for substance. But Colbert wasn't buying it.
I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. If people on the right are like, yeah, go get him. Oh my God, you're crazy. You're crazy for supporting this. It makes his show bigger, much more support. This is my suspicion. They suspend it for a short amount of time and then they bring it back. And then there's a lot of lawyers. Somehow or another it gets worked out that he has a show. He comes back to a standing ovation. Donald Trump tweets mean shit about him. And then the world moves on.
He took apart her talking points with surgical calm, revealing a defense that sounded more like a poorly practiced school debate load, clumsy and painfully hollow. Every scandal is a setup. Every critic, a nobody. That's the new Trump doctrine: denial as policy, confusion as a trademark. Colbert captured it perfectly, demonstrating how Trump can spin a full-blown catastrophe into a victory parade simply by yelling over the wreckage. At this point, confidence without comprehension has practically become the White House soundtrack.
So it's the right wing who's in denial about this young man's affiliations. By the way, he was not a kid. He was 22 years old. We went through that. Then it was made perfectly clear over the past 2 days that this kid, to use Jimmy's word, has been completely indoctrinated into left-wing ideology. His parents said that. His parents said he had moved farther left politically. He had gotten very into the messaging of the left wing around gay rights and trans ideology. And then we see what was written on the bullet casings. And now the message is shifting from the left to, well, we still might not know his motivation, but really.
When Trump promised to reshape America, no one realized he meant turning it into a full-blown parody. Colbert highlighted how every decision seems dictated by whatever headline is trending, not logic. Not policy, just pure performance. Infrastructure can wait. Healthcare is apparently optional, but the self-praise never stops. The only thing Trump delivers consistently is inconsistency. Colbert spun that whirlwind into pure comedy. Caroline Levitt's job seems to be spinning Trump's chaos, as if it's carefully choreographed. Every mistake.
Last night, mostly, that there were multiple reasons why Jimmy Kimmel was pulled off the air. But chief among them was, not only was he not planning on apologizing when he was going to go back out on his show Wednesday evening, he was planning on attacking MAGA. Attacking. My words are being purposefully twisted.
Gets upgraded to misunderstood brilliance. Every blunder becomes some bold new innovation. Colbert shredded that illusion, calling her praise exactly what it is: luck crashing into ego. Her attempts at authority usually boomerang, leaving her defending disaster with a strained smile and a handful of hollow lines. Trump's rallies play out like performance art, where applause takes the place of actual answers. Colbert skewered how every event morphs into a self-celebration.
When you look at the Jimmy Kimmel suspension, do you think it's another example of kind of state use of, is it state censorship?
Well, I think this is a very clear example of that. It is a direct government action to try to intimidate employers, organizations, corporations, much of which we've already seen, to remove an opponent, even though it's a comic. Of course, this was a particularly sensitive time because of the terrible crime that was committed, the murder of Mr. Kirk. But, you defend free speech in terrible times.
No matter the topic, jobs, hurricanes, scandals, it all ends with the same choreographed cheering. Leavitt calls it authenticity. Colbert calls it chaos with a catchphrase. And her defenses. They land like optimism on autopilot rehearsed, strained. And unmistakably hollow. Colbert dismantled Trump's obsession with optics every photo op, a plea for validation. Every handshake treated like a championship match. Beneath the bravado is a leader who mistakes applause for accomplishment.
Weeks ago, Stephen Colbert announced that he was leaving the show. Howard Stern announced that he and Sirius XM Radio are parting ways. Do you think the hate Trump business model that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business because it's not popular with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time. And I would say pretty much from the beginning, Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside in the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to.
Leavitt, ever loyal, buffs the chaos and calls it leadership. But Colbert's humor sliced through the facade. Exposing the truth, denial wrapped in confidence, is still just denial. Leavitt recites the same script until delusion starts to sound like conviction. She preaches stability while defending pure chaos. Colbert roasted the contradiction, showing how blind loyalty can slip into self-parody. Her devotion to Trump feels more like performance art, big enthusiasm.
This is such gaslighting. We went through how many days after we saw what was written on the bullets of them saying, no, don't believe what's on the bullet casings. He was a right-winger. He came from a MAGA family, and he was MAGA. But went from days of that By the way, here's just one example. Jimmy Kimmel, this is him on Monday, refusing to acknowledge that he was a left-winger, notwithstanding but the fact that we already had this information from the Utah governor that he was indoctrinated into the left-wing ideology. We saw what he had written on the bullets. Just one example.
Desperately trying to mask the emptiness underneath. Trump's version of leadership plays like a chaotic musical everyone off-key, yet insisting it's perfect harmony. Colbert called it exactly what it is: performance art, masquerading as governance. Levitt's defenses sound like an auto-tuned remix of misplaced optimism. Colbert's wit sliced through the noise, reminding everyone that leadership isn't about theatrics, it's about results.
I go too hard on Donald Trump to the point where there are still a lot of people who think I should be pulled off the air for making fun of Donald Trump. So I want to explain. I talk about Trump more than anything because he's a bully. I don't like bullies. I played the clarinet in high school, okay? So
This is so ridiculous. You know, I feel like Emily, you are genuinely funny. You've made me laugh out loud many times on your show, After Party with Emily Jashinsky. I'm mildly amusing. Eliana, I think you're funny too. You're very clever. However, I would never think that because I'm occasionally funny, I could host a late night show. I would never think I could go out there and do Jimmy Kimmel's.
how hard the president is